In the 8th year of our marriage, photos of Noah Edwards vacationing across Europe with his childhood sweetheart flooded the internet. The woman even posted a bold caption, "Forever in love," with no final chapter. I used my verified account to like her post. Then, without any hesitation, I publicly shared a photo of our marriage certificate. Noah called immediately, his voice sharp with anger. He went on, demanding explanations, venting his frustration as though I had betrayed him. I waited patiently until he was done, then said in a calm and measured voice, "Let us get divorced, just as you wished." At that moment, I had just finished packing my few belongings from the Edwards family villa. Funny, really, after 8 years of marriage, everything I owned barely filled 2 suitcases. The rest were things Noah had carelessly given me over the years. Gifts more out of obligation than affection, after he fell out with his family because of me. He kept me tucked away under the noble title of the perfect housewife. At first, he gave me a secondary credit card. Later, he began to find fault with everything I did. I could not understand corporate dynamics like he wanted. I was not as lively or radiant as Ava Clarke. Eventually, he took back the card, too. When I picked up the phone, Noah's voice was cold and filled with blame. In the background, I could faintly hear Ava sobbing. I glanced at the clock. It was the middle of the night in Europe. The timing made everything more obvious. Noah shouted, "Isabella Wilson, what were you thinking? Do you know how badly Ava is being attacked online because of you?" Whatever fragile hope I had left in my heart was crushed by that one sentence. He had forgotten it was our wedding anniversary. In the past, I would have gone to great lengths to keep up appearances. When Ava crossed the line, I was always the one smoothing things over before Noah ever needed to explain anything to our relatives and friends. I would have had excuses prepared before they even returned from their trips. But not this time. This time, I was done protecting them. Noah said sternly, "If you apologize to Ava right now and post a statement online, I can still forgive you." His self-righteous tone made my heart tighten, though I hated that it still could. When I did not respond, he softened his voice a little. Though the pressure remained, "Isabella, Ava is just in a bad place emotionally. We grew up together. You know that. I cannot just leave her alone." If I had heard those words before, I might have exploded in anger. The reason was simple. Ava had a boyfriend. But because he was not from one of the prestigious families like the Clarks or the Edwards, Ava never acknowledged him in front of Noah. This time, however, I felt a rare sense of calm. "Yes," I replied quietly. "Even though Ava has a boyfriend, she still needs your company." Noah went silent. After a long pause, his voice turned icy. I cut him off before he could continue with another lecture or a threat. "So, like I said, let us get divorced. That is what you want, is it not?" There was a brief silence on the line before he finally spoke again, his voice distant and cold. "Are you really sure you want to divorce me?" I answered plainly, "I am not fighting with you. I am just getting a divorce." A scoff echoed from Noah's end of the line, as if he could not take my words seriously. To him, I had always been the wife who trailed behind him quietly, hoping he would turn around. The thought that I would be the one to bring up divorce clearly amused him. He said with a sneer, "Didn't expect you to play hard to get. Too bad, that doesn't work on me. Since you brought it up, fine, let's get divorced, just don't come crying back when you regret it." The call ended abruptly. I stared at the screen, which had gone from glowing brightly to a cold, empty black. For a moment, I simply stood there, lost in thought. Then, another call came in. This time, it was from Mrs. Edwards, Noah's mother. Her voice was warm on the surface but carried the weight of reproach. "Isabella, how could you do this? That girl Ava, she only acts out because she looks up to our Noah too much. She's just a child, really. She grew up being spoiled by the Clarks. She doesn't know better. That is why she caused all this trouble." She paused for a sigh before continuing. "Granted, Ava can be a little headstrong, but you are the older one, her sister-in-law. For heaven's sake, why would you slap her in the face like that? Just delete your post on social media, bring some gifts, and go with Noah back to the family home, apologize to Ava in person, then make a statement online to smooth things over. Ava will not make things hard for you. Once that is done, we can all move on." Listening to her, I could not help but laugh. Quiet, breathless laughter, born of frustration rather than amusement. I remembered when Noah and I first got engaged. Back then, Mrs. Edwards had treated me like a treasure. If my tea at their house cooled by even a few degrees, she would rush to replace it with a fresh cup. I had been the precious daughter-in-law they could not wait to welcome. And now, she was telling me I should swallow every bit of humiliation like it was expected of me. Was this just how people changed? I did not think so, Mrs. Edwards, I said evenly. Noah and I are about to finalize our divorce. Everything I said is the truth. I have no regrets and nothing to apologize for. And by the way, I do not know why Ava insists on calling me her sister. This is not the 1800s. We do not do concubines anymore. Without waiting for a response, I ended the call and blocked her number. I stared at my phone, still feeling like it was not enough. The storm on social media had already broken. Even though Noah and Ava tried to use their family's influence, the Edwards and the Clarks, to suppress the news, the results were far from ideal. Their romantic getaway in Europe came to an abrupt end. A mutual friend tipped me off that they had returned early. So I called Noah. He took his time answering. When he finally picked up, his voice was laced with disdain. "So, you figured out you were wrong. Hurry back and apologize to Ava." I chuckled softly. His arrogance no longer surprised me, nor did it deserve a response. Instead, I said calmly, 9 o'clock tomorrow, at the Civil Affairs office. His answer came quickly, full of scorn. "I am taking Ava to visit the Clarks tomorrow, cleaning up the mess you caused. I do not have time." Even though I had already let go of him in my heart, his tone, so sure that I should step aside for Ava, still made my chest tighten with a wave of quiet anger. "Do as you wish," I said coldly. "I will wait until 10. If you do not show up, I will file for divorce through the courts." He snorted. "Let us see if you really have the guts. Just don't come crawling back later." The line went dead. I stood there in silence, the busy signal still buzzing faintly from the phone in my hand. As a strange sense of calm washed over me. In the beginning, life with Noah truly felt like a dream. We were sweet, inseparable, and everything seemed perfect. But as time passed and we went through more together, I began to see the cracks in his character. Beneath the charm, there was a deep-rooted coldness, a wandering heart, and an arrogant belief that he was always right. Time has a way of revealing the truth. Eventually, it changed everything. The next morning, I waited outside the courthouse for Noah to arrive so we could file for divorce. 30 minutes passed, then an hour, then 2. The sun climbed high in the sky, scorching hot above my head. By the time it was nearly noon, I knew Noah was never planning to show up. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and turned away from the building. Without much thought, I picked up my phone and dialed a number I had not used in a long time. It was Clark's family, people I had not spoken to in ages. The moment the line connected, I felt something stir in the air around me, like a flicker of something long forgotten. "Dad," I started, but before I could say anything else, my father's voice came through, strong and certain. "If you regret it, come home. Your mother and I are always here for you. Come back for dinner tonight. I will have Mrs. Wang make your favorite, sweet and sour ribs." Hearing those words, my nose tingled with the sting of unshed tears. I rubbed it gently, then mumbled into the phone, "Dad, can you help me find a good divorce lawyer?" He sighed, grumbled a bit, as fathers do, but wasted no time. Within minutes, he sent me a contact. I added the lawyer and briefly explained my situation. After listening, he said the matter was a bit complex and suggested an in-person meeting. I agreed, setting the appointment for 3 days later. Just as I finalized the details with the lawyer, a familiar and unpleasant voice rang out behind me. Well, fancy seeing you here, sis-in-law." It was Jack, Noah's longtime buddy. Back when Noah and I had first gotten together, Jack often covered for Noah's secret meetings with Ava. After I caught them red-handed once, Jack and I had been on frosty terms. Things got worse when, during one drunken night, Jack openly declared that Noah and Ava were meant to be together. Noah had not even defended me. He just laughed it off and muttered, "He is drunk," as if that erased everything. We had a terrible argument that night. Noah, in a fit of rage, shouted, "Look at yourself. You are acting like a crazy woman. Why can you not learn to be more like Ava?" kind and pure. Later, he claimed it was all said in the heat of the moment, a slip of the tongue. But I have always believed people speak their truest thoughts when they are drunk. I looked at Jack, expressionless. Do you want something? I asked flatly. We were never close. And I certainly did not see the need for small talk on the sidewalk. He had one arm around a curvy woman in a tight dress and smiled at me like nothing had ever happened. So, why are you out here alone today, not heading back to the Edwards house with Big Bro? I did not even lift my eyes. Calmly, I replied. Waiting for him. We are getting divorced. That made him freeze. His smile faltered, and for a second, he looked like he had misheard me. Then he chuckled, trying to smooth it over. Come on, sis-in-law. That cannot be true. Edwards and Ava are just friends. You are taking this too far. Do not you think? I nodded slowly, unwilling to argue. Then I hope the person you love most ends up having lots of friends like Ava. Jack's expression soured. I did not wait for a reply. I opened the car door and climbed inside. The blast of cool air from the air conditioning swept over me, quieting the heat not just on my skin but in my heart as well. There were several unread messages on my phone, all from group chats created by people who used to be close friends of mine. One photo in particular caught my eye. Noah and Ava, standing together at the entrance of the Edwards estate. Ava was smiling gently, while Noah stood beside her with a soft grin, his gaze fixed on the crown of her head with an unmistakable tenderness. Noah and I had married through a high-profile arrangement between wealthy families, but to my surprise, we actually got along quite well. Over time, I found myself falling in love with him, truly and deeply. When the Edwards family faced a financial crisis and their cash flow dried up, I did not hesitate. I stepped in and filled the gap with my own funds. I believed in Noah at that time. He wrapped his arm around me with pride and passion in his eyes. He told me he would rebuild the Edwards name, make the family stronger than ever, and promised that I would be admired as the shining Mrs. Edwards. Back then, his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Edwards, treated me with warmth and affection, even when my older brother warned me that the Edwards family might not be as sincere as they appeared. I had brushed off his concerns. But now, everything had changed, the moment I lost the protection of my parents. The moment the Edwards family realized I had truly fallen in love with Noah, my world turned upside down. Noah began coming home later and later. His social gatherings became more frequent. Rumors and scandalous stories about him reached me again and again. Mr. and Mrs. Edwards began to look at me with cold eyes, and when Ava returned, their disdain for me became unmistakable. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Noah. Ava has a fever. We will talk about the divorce tomorrow. As I stared at that message, images of Noah and Ava standing like a perfect couple in that photo flashed through my mind. The irony was almost too bitter to bear. All along, it seemed the happiness I had once believed in was nothing more than an illusion. Now that I could finally see Noah's true nature, I had no interest in playing games with him anymore. I turned my car around and headed straight back to the Wilson estate. When the Edwards family's financial troubles began, the Wilsons were quick to sense the danger. They pulled back at just the right time. If I had not been blinded by what I thought was love, if I had not poured every last bit of my wealth into Noah's hands, the Wilson family and Clark Corporation could have soared even higher. I arrived home earlier than expected, but the entire family was already gathered in the living room, waiting for me. They sat upright on the couch, solemn and silent. As soon as I stepped through the door, my mother's eyes welled up with tears. After I shared everything that had happened between Noah and me, my father slammed his hand on the table. That Edwards boy has gone too far, he thundered. My brother gently tried to calm him down, then turned to me. Isabella, I know you are not one to act impulsively, so tell us, what do you want to do? I raised my head and met his eyes with calm determination. I want a divorce. But, I paused for a moment, then said with clarity, before the divorce, I plan to collect some interest from the Edwards family. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of real money, youth, love, patience, and humiliation. I intended for every bit of it to be paid back, with interest, with the Wilson family quietly pulling strings behind the scenes. The scandal surrounding Noah and Ava, which had recently been suppressed, resurfaced once more. Then I released everything. the recording of the phone call Noah and Mrs. Edwards had made to me that day. The photos of Noah and Ava walking hand in hand back into the Edwards estate, I posted them all online. Mistress, infidelity, a powerful, wealthy family. Each word carried enough weight to stir up a storm. Within hours, the news had spread like wildfire, and the stock price of the Edwards family empire began to plummet rapidly. In a desperate attempt to shift the narrative, the Edwards family released an official statement through their public account. They included photographs and childhood memories, showing Noah and Ava growing up together, their tone filled with subtle accusations against me. The message was clear. They painted me as unreasonable, suggesting that Noah and Ava were simply childhood friends, nothing more. Online opinion began to sway. Many suddenly changed their stance, convinced that there had never been anything romantic between the two. Some even went so far as to say, "The Edwards family is one of the wealthiest in the country. What powerful CEO doesn't have a few close female friends?" I ignored them all. I blocked every member of the Edwards family, along with Noah's friends. I waited quietly for my lawyer to finish drafting the paperwork. The divorce was coming, and it would be formal, clean, and thorough. Back when the Edwards family faced a devastating financial crisis, it was my resources that pulled them back from the brink. Without me, they never would have reached the heights they enjoyed today. Now that we were divorcing, I would take what was owed to me. Even if I donated every cent to charity, I would not leave Noah with a single advantage. The Edwards family's legal team repeatedly argued that my demand for 70% of the family's estate was excessive. I did not care. Later that afternoon, I saw new photos posted in a group chat started by mutual friends. Noah and Ava were walking hand in hand along the beach. Completely unfazed by the rumors, they looked relaxed, even joyful. On their fingers were matching rings. Clearly a pair. Their ability to withstand the pressure and keep up appearances was truly impressive. In that moment, any lingering hesitation or emotional uncertainty within me disappeared completely. Barely 2 minutes after the photos appeared, they were reposted online by someone I had once called my best friend, Mia Anderson. She captioned the image with a biting remark. "May everyone who believes they are just friends have a partner blessed with many such friends." The Andersons were also an old money family. Mia and Ava had never gotten along. Most of the Anderson family's wealth was based overseas, beyond the influence of the Edwards family. So Mia had no fear of retaliation. She stepped forward boldly, publicly calling out Noah and Ava for who they were. And at this point, the Edwards family had their hands full anyway. The lawyer recommended by my father moved swiftly. Before the scandal reached its peak, he filed a lawsuit against Noah in court. Noah stared at me that day with stunned disbelief. He looked as if he could not comprehend how the woman who had always been overly patient with him could now be so cold and resolute. Later that same day, as his car neared the Edwards estate, Noah suddenly gave the driver new instructions. "Take me to the villa," he said. The villa had once been our new home. But in recent months, Noah had rarely returned. The driver turned the car around at once, and soon they arrived at the gated entrance of the quiet property. Noah stepped into the house, greeted by an interior that was clean and well-maintained, but he felt none of the warmth it once held. He walked through each room slowly. It took only a moment for him to realize that all of my belongings were gone. A few of the gifts he had given me remained scattered in the walk-in closet. As if I had left them behind without a second thought, Noah felt a tightening in his chest. Still, he refused to believe it. He could not accept that I truly wanted a divorce. In the beginning, when the rumors about Noah's affairs first started, I did react. I threatened him with divorce, packed my bags, and even moved out once or twice. But Noah always believed I was hopelessly in love with him. As long as he confirmed I was safe, he would leave me to cool off on my own. Meanwhile, he would continue drinking with young models, flirting with his assistant, and carrying on as usual. Within a week, I would come back, acting soft and defeated. What Noah could not understand was why this time I had drawn such a clear, final line. Was it because of our wedding anniversary? That could not be it. We had not celebrated that day together since our 3rd year of marriage. He thought long and hard about it, and in the end, he blamed it on my jealousy, calling it irrational and petty. Meanwhile, Ava was growing increasingly anxious as public opinion began turning completely against her. She had always been the pampered darling of her circle, a woman who cared little for most things, except for two, men and reputation. Now she had neither. She had not yet fully secured a man like Noah, who seemed perfect in every way, and at the same time, she had earned the label of homewrecker. Even the Clark family was facing public backlash. The young elites in their social circle had begun to mock her openly and behind her back. Humiliated and desperate, Ava decided she had to fix the situation fast. That was when she remembered her low-profile boyfriend, but what she did not know was that he had already been persuaded to turn against her. By me, there are only two types of men who can accept their girlfriends being surrounded by flirtatious rumors: those who do not care about them, or those who have ulterior motives. Ava's boyfriend clearly belonged to the latter. He was the youngest son of a third-tier wealthy family. He had no chance of inheriting anything, and he was tired of relying on his elder brother or begging his parents for money, so he turned his attention to wealthy, beautiful heiresses. But being used as a placeholder while Ava flaunted her relationship with Noah wounded his pride deeply. Unlike Ava, he had no powerful family backing him, no Clark dynasty behind him, no uncertain alliance with the Edwards family to lean on, just himself, and a growing sense of humiliation. By the time I approached him, he was more than eager to help. When the Clark family held a press conference, they decided to clear Ava's name and salvage what was left of her image. Midway through, they publicly announced Ava's engagement. "Ladies and gentlemen," said Mr. Clark, addressing the cameras with a smile, "all the gossip linking our daughter to the Edwards family is completely baseless. Those rumors about her trip to Europe, she was not alone. James was with her the entire time." With that, he turned to Ava and James, giving them a subtle cue. Ava slipped her arm through James's and smiled gracefully, though her tone left no room for doubt. "That is right, and if anyone continues spreading lies about us, my fiancé and I will not hesitate to pursue legal action." Then James took the microphone. He paused, facing the crowd of reporters, cameras flashing, before letting out a soft, mocking laugh. "Everyone," he said calmly, "I, James, cannot accept a fiancé who is so shameless and full of lies." The room fell into stunned silence. A moment later, whispers rippled through the audience. Ava's face turned ghostly pale. She stared at James in disbelief. "The stories you have seen online," James continued, "every single one of them is true." He was well prepared. With a single wave of his hand, the screen behind him lit up, looping damning footage and evidence. "Right before my dear fiancée went on that trip to Europe with Noah," he explained, his voice steady, "she told me she had fought with her family and needed time alone. She insisted I should not accompany her." He stepped back, arms crossed, while the footage played, and Ava, speechless and frozen in place, could only watch as the carefully built illusion of her innocence shattered into pieces before the entire world. The courtroom erupted in shocked murmurs, but James remained composed. One by one, he laid out every piece of evidence with remarkable clarity, explaining each incident thoroughly and precisely. Ava stood frozen, utterly unprepared for this kind of public confrontation. She had never faced anything like it before. Mr. Clark, her father, seemed like he wanted to intervene. But the moment he noticed that none of his people could get close to James, realization dawned on his face. There was only one explanation. James, on his own, could never have pulled this off. To gather this much evidence and present it so flawlessly while targeting Ava's reputation with such precision, there could be only one person behind it, the Wilson girl, me. Despite the chaos unfolding across the room, it had no impact on me and Noah. Ava had already shared her plan with him. Noah stood there, chin held high, waiting for Ava's strategy to take effect. Once her end succeeded and he presented new evidence on his side, he figured the divorce would still go through, and I would walk away with next to nothing from the Edwards family fortune, when the time was just right. Noah's lawyer stood up slowly and confidently. "We have new evidence to present." With permission granted, he played a video from a Clark family press conference. The footage was crystal clear. As the video played, Noah's face turned pale. He sprang from his seat, trying to stop the recording, But people around him held him back. He could only glare at me, his eyes filled with fury, as if they could burn holes through my skin. When the video ended, I handed in another folder of evidence. Documents proving how, when the Edwards Group was in crisis, I had done everything I could to patch the financial holes and keep the company afloat. The verdict came out soon after, just as I had expected. Outside the courtroom, Noah stormed over to me, his expression dark and threatening. "Isabella, you did this on purpose," he hissed. At this point, I no longer had the energy to respond to his tantrums. I met his glare with a calm nod and replied without emotion, "You can think whatever you like. No, Isabella." Noah's voice cracked with rage. "We were husband and wife. That money, you gave it willingly, and now you want to walk away with 70% of the Edwards family assets. Have you no shame?" Before I could respond, my brother stepped forward and pulled me gently behind him. His eyes locked on Noah, his tone low and amused. "Mr. Edwards," he said, "I believe your sense of shame got lost somewhere in Europe." Along with Miss Clark's, the click and flash of cameras erupted around us. Cutting off whatever Noah had been about to say, the scandal surrounding the Edwards family was already unbearable. He knew he could not afford to drag their name even deeper into disgrace, but it seemed that even fate had grown tired of Noah's behavior. Before I could make it back to the Wilson estate, the internet had already erupted with a flood of mockery and scorn aimed squarely at Noah and Ava, especially Noah. A video taken outside the courthouse had gone viral, capturing him saying things he likely never thought would be heard by the public. Many who had once accused me of being too extreme suddenly realized that without me, the Edwards family might have collapsed long ago. Public opinion turned swiftly and brutally. The ridicule shifted from criticizing his affair with his childhood friend to branding him as a man who lived off women and carried no true worth. It was like a vast net of condemnation had been cast, trapping Noah tightly within it. Lately, he had been acting like a man possessed. He began appearing frequently near the Wilson estate, lurking around like a ghost from the past. Worse still, he kept changing phone numbers, trying to bypass my blocks, sending message after message, calling non-stop. After declining his 20th call, I finally turned to the butler and instructed him, "Please go outside and ask Noah to leave. Make it clear he is not welcome here." I also had a new sign posted at the front gate. It read, "Noah and dogs are not allowed inside." After spending several days at home, I arranged to go shopping with MIA. The scandal surrounding Noah and Ava was still simmering online, with plenty of help from the Wilson family and a few powerful old money families who had long disliked both the Edwards and Clark families. Even after more than 10 days, the news still had not completely died down. After MIA and I finished our outing, we returned to find Noah once again camped outside the estate gate. Like a stubborn stain that refused to be washed away, just as we reached the front door, a low rumble of thunder echoed overhead, followed by a sudden downpour. I glanced up at the sky and sighed softly. "Mrs. Wang," I said to the housekeeper, "bring it inside, would you? Poor thing. It looks so pitiful out there in the rain." Noah's eyes lit up at once. In his mind, this was proof that I still cared, that everything I had done was just a facade. Deep down, Isabella still loved him. He took a hopeful step forward, only to stop short when he saw Mrs. Wang emerge from the bushes holding a small yellow and white puppy under her umbrella. His face darkened instantly. No one at the estate even looked in his direction. The rain streamed through his hair and down his face, soaking him completely in a matter of moments. He looked like a man left out in the cold, drenched and forgotten. Just as he turned to leave, a quiet rustle and the sudden presence of an umbrella over his head made him pause. Noah spun around, expecting to see me, perhaps with an expression of guilt or tenderness, maybe even a hint of the old affection he counted on manipulating. His mind had already begun rehearsing what he would say to win me back. Instead, he saw Ava, standing there in a white dress, her face pale, her eyes shadowed. "Ava," he asked stiffly. His voice lost the confidence he normally carried. He had always maintained the upper hand with her, always expected her to play along, to flatter and comfort him. He had never let her see him like this. Drenched, defeated, ignored, still clinging to some sense of control, he turned back to glare at me through the window. Where I sat inside, happily playing with the puppy, Ava smiled gently, but the sadness in her eyes was too deep to miss. "I heard you were here," she said quietly, "at the Wilson estate, and when I saw the rain, I just thought," her voice faltered, then dropped to a whisper. She lowered her gaze and clutched the umbrella tighter. "I just thought, with the rain this heavy, why didn't you bring an umbrella, Edwards? What if you got sick? What would we do then?" Noah's heart had softened for a brief moment, but then he hesitated. He quickly turned to Ava and asked, "Who exactly are you talking about?" Ava's face froze, her sorrowful expression faltering. She had thought her gentle nature and considerate words would earn her more compassion from Noah. She never expected him to question her. Still, she tried to explain. It is Jack and MIA. They have been talking non-stop about you in the group chat." Noah clenched his jaw. "MIA again." MIA had returned with me and witnessed Noah clinging to me like a man desperate to undo his mistakes. She wasted no time sharing the entire spectacle with her close friends. "And Jack. He boldly tagged me in the chat and wrote some nonsense like, 'A reformed player is worth more than gold.' Come on, sis-in-law, just forgive Edwards already." I had nothing but contempt for Jack's words. From where I sat on the sofa, I picked up my phone and aimed it through the upstairs window, snapping a few clear photos of Noah and Ava standing close together outside the Wilsons' house, playing the part of a loving couple. Without saying a word, I sent the photos to the group chat. The chat fell silent in an instant. Even Jack, who had just been speaking up for Noah, turned beet red with embarrassment. A wave of frustration swept over him. He had been defending Noah's character, and meanwhile, Noah was cozying up to Ava right in front of everyone. They might not care about their reputations, but Jack still cared about his. After that incident, Noah disappeared for several days. I had not seen him once. Meanwhile, the Edwards family business hit a rough patch. When I left, I chose not to take company shares. Instead, I took the equivalent cash payout. Though Noah and I had signed a prenuptial agreement years ago, there was no denying that Noah had significantly expanded the Edwards empire in the 8 years of our marriage. What I walked away with was far more than what I had initially invested, but no sooner had the money landed in my account than the Edwards Group faced another financial crisis. Their funding chain collapsed again. Both Noah and his father were like ants on a hot pan, scrambling for solutions. But Mrs. Edwards, her eyes had shifted, this time to Ava. Back when I still believed in Noah and wanted to build a future with him, I had poured my own money into covering the family's debts. Mrs. Edwards remembered that well. She had tasted the benefit once and was now subtly hinting that Ava should do the same. Ava clung to Noah. Sure, some of that was because of his looks, but more than that, it was because he was the Edwards heir, a man with influence and power in the capital. Still, even if she wanted to pretend she was willing to weather the storm by his side, the money she had was a drop in the bucket compared to the hole the Edwards family had to fill, and truthfully, she had no intention of emptying her bank account for them. She was not his wife yet. And the very fact that I had stepped up and bailed them out once was precisely the reason neither Ava nor her family would follow in my footsteps. But none of that concerned me anymore. After taking a few days to rest, I returned to work at Wilson Group and resumed my previous position. Life was moving on. What I did not expect was to be confronted by Ava after work in the parking lot. "Is something wrong?" I asked coldly. I frowned as I looked at her. Her once radiant face was now shadowed and pale. Even the clarity in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by a kind of desperation that was hard to ignore. "Isabella," Ava croaked, her voice hoarse. "Why?" Sensing something was off, I quietly dialed my brother's number and left the line open. "Why?" Ava suddenly shouted, her eyes wide and accusing. "Why are you divorcing him? Why are you taking a share of the Edwards family's fortune? What gives you the right?" Her sudden outburst took over the room. Her entire body trembled with emotion, unable to contain her fury. In the past, whenever Ava caused a scene like this, I would take it upon myself to smooth things over, offering excuses on her behalf to relatives and friends. I always made sure to protect the family's image, but this time, I made no effort to defend her. I had prepared for this moment long before she and Noah ever came back. I looked at her calmly, the disdain in my eyes striking her like a slap to the face. "I am a businesswoman, Miss Clark," I said coolly. "I assess risks and benefits. I withdraw when the time is right. That is what any capable person would do." Ava's hands clenched at her sides. She was clearly struggling to accept reality, the bitterness thick in her expression. "If it were not for you," she hissed, "I would have become Mrs. Edwards. Half of everything the Edwards family owns would have been mine." I almost laughed, folding my arms across my chest. I simply looked at her without saying a word. Suddenly, like a woman unhinged, Ava lunged at me, but I saw it coming. With one slight turn, I avoided her and, without hesitation, pressed her to the floor in a firm hold. "Isabella," she screamed, looking up at me from beneath. Ava caught sight of my calm, slightly amused expression, and in that moment, she remembered something she had long forgotten. Before marrying Noah, I had trained in martial arts for 10 years. It did not take long for the police to arrive, along with my brother. Since the altercation took place in the Wilson estate and officers were involved, the Edwards family quickly got word. The news spread fast. Noah, shaken by the incident, made a critical mistake. Without verifying any facts, he let the story leak to the media. It had not even been a full month since the last scandal, and the public still remembered the chaos. Online discussions flared up once again. But this time, official statements were released, and the truth came to light. Rumors swirled in every corner of the internet. People speculated, debated, and took sides. But Noah knew deep down that Ava had never truly loved him. She had only wanted to cling to the Edwards name and enjoy the status it brought her. Once he realized this, Noah tried to play the part of the remorseful man once again, returning to me with empty words and hopes of reconciliation. But before he could act, rival families, who had long been at odds with the Edwards, seized the moment. They joined forces to dismantle the company piece by piece. Noah soon found himself overwhelmed, unable to salvage what was left. By the time the Edwards family officially declared bankruptcy, I had already regained full control of the market landscape. Without looking back, I threw myself wholeheartedly into the operations of the Wilson Company. Stronger, wiser, and finally free. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.